I can't just have Lieutenant Matos come up without an introduction, not that she needs one, but I do want to acknowledge that since taking office, Lieutenant Matos has made housing a priority in her administration. She shows up at every single thing, and she's dedicated staff to our weekly calls so that they're abreast of what all of us are doing on the ground, and she's deeply committed, and she's also a person that's on the ground in the community. So welcome back to the neighborhood again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eileen. It's always good to come to Amos House and see the amazing work that you're doing in here. We were talking earlier that we like coming here because you get things done. So it's always a pleasure coming here. So I'm going to try this, like the millennials, looking at my phone. Let's see. Rhode Island has, for a long time, neglected building affordable housing and building enough units. This problem didn't occur overnight, and it's going to take a long time for us to address the problem and come out of these problems. But working together with Governor McKee, we have been making housing a priority. And this is just one component of the things that we're doing to make sure that we are addressing the challenges that we have with housing and with homelessness in the state of Rhode Island. I'm very grateful that the governor is putting more funding to make sure that we put more resources through this landlord program that we know it works. We have seen how Amos House had this program and how it worked before, and we are committed to making it possible to continue to put resources towards the program. I also want to say that the governor added in his budget $250 million, which is a historic amount of money here in Rhode Island, to be used for housing, to making housing a priority and to address the challenges of housing here in the state of Rhode Island. So today, I'm very excited to support the landlords program, the landlords challenge, and to make sure that we get the word out. I want to thank each one of you that is here, all the media that is here covering this information, because we need to get the word out. So thank you for being here covering this program and getting the word out for us. These programs will go a long way towards keeping our neighbors out of shelters and also out of the homelessness system and out of the street, and also making sure that they have a warm and safe place to call home. This is part of the solution. We are working in different areas to address the homeless challenge that we have right now facing on the state, and also the lack of housing that we have right now on the state. So I want to thank the Governor McKee for his commitment, for supporting me and my office in the work that we're doing to make housing a priority. So thank you, Eileen, for having me here.
Thank you, Lieutenant Matos. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Josh Saul, who is our Deputy Secretary of Commerce for Housing. And I'm going to start by talking about my first introduction to Josh. It was the night before a blizzard we were having. It was a Friday night, probably around 8 o'clock, and I got a call on my cell phone from Josh. He said, we have to figure out where people are going to go tomorrow. And I said, yeah, we do. Even though it's the 11th hour, we still have to figure out where people were going to go tomorrow. And I was just so struck by his human commitment to actually do the work. Like, he wasn't calling because he was an administrator of commerce. He was calling because he really worried about the folks that might be out on the street and did not have a warm place to go in the impending blizzard. So he sold me when he made that call, and I've watched Josh continue to struggle with the realities of Rhode Island. Josh comes from New York City and was instrumental in finding creative ways to add thousands of units to New York City using city land and abandoned properties. So he knows how to do this work. He came back from New York to Rhode Island after having been here as a student at Brown, where he did some volunteer work around housing, so he cares about this. We have, I think, run him down pretty seriously, and he probably already wishes that he stayed in New York. But I think in terms of a person who's not just dedicated to the housing for folks that are above the 80% AMI, but really truly caring about the folks that are at the 30% and below, the people that Amos House and Crossroads and House of Hope and Warm and all of my colleagues work with every day. So I'm really, it's my honor to bring Josh Saul up for his comments.
Thank you, Eileen, and thank you, everyone, really, at Amos House. I would say this work is something we all get into because we care, and I know that the staff at Amos House, the staff really at all our agencies around the state, reflect that level of care, and that Rhode Island is a small state, but a caring place, and whether that comes to the agencies that are providing shelter, landlords that are providing housing, we realize that the different partners here, we have to come together. And it's really something I want to stress because my office as well, and OHCD, and we have Mary Rose and Jose both here today representing us. They have worked tirelessly with the agencies to come at what is really an issue that, as the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, has been years in the making. Homelessness is a housing issue. And when I came here from New York, one of the things that attracted me and one of the reasons why I came here is because this governor recognizes that. He doesn't think that there's homelessness and then there's housing and there's two different issues. He really understands that across the spectrum of different types of housing, we have to address all of the population's needs, whether they are currently homeless, whether they're currently graduating from college and are starting their first job, whether they're becoming homeowners. And that gets me to my next point, which is really that we often talk about the challenges of today and blame one party or the other and say that there's a dichotomy, a real false dichotomy between tenants and landlords. If we are going to solve the housing issues that we have in this state, we need those same landlords just as we need the tenants to be working together towards solutions. And that's what this landlord challenge does. It calls upon landlords, some of them who were once themselves probably tenants, to step up and to provide housing for people who are experiencing homelessness. My hope is that one day, perhaps some of these tenants themselves become landlords. As you know, a lot of people think about homelessness in a certain way that doesn't reflect the reality. We have people in shelters right now, families who work multiple jobs who are struggling because of the shortage of housing. That shortage, though, we are looking to address, and the governor has proposed a historic $250 million budget to do that by increasing the housing supply. Nonetheless, we have to take action today, and I want to again thank my office, all of our staff, all of the governor's staff, all the staff at Amos House. I met some of the folks working at one of the shelters in Pawtucket, and they're doing great work. And really all of the agencies, because if there's any way that we're going to work through this and build a brighter future and a safer, more secure, affordable housing future for Rhode Islanders, is by working together. And this landlord challenge really puts that forth to our landlords to bring in more people who are experiencing homelessness and house them so they have a safe, secure place where they can rebuild their lives and be meaningful contributors to our community. So thank you very much, and I'll pass it back to Eileen.
So now it's my pleasure to introduce Bob Shimiko, who's the director of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development's New England Regional Office. And Bob and I have worked together for many years. I just thought that if I had known he was running a marathon in Rhode Island, I would have put a sign on his back that said, landlord incentive program. You want cash? Call this number. Just think of what would have happened. But I didn't know that. So next year, we're going to hold you to that. So Mr. Shimiko is responsible for the administration and oversight of HUD CBT, Community Planning and Development Grant Programs, including 61 entitlement city and state government grantees, 104 competitive grantees across 5 state New England region, including CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG Disaster Recovery Programs, the Home Investment Partnerships, Neighborhood Stabilization Program, Emergency Solution Grant Programs. How do you keep all these words together? The Housing Trust Fund, the COC, and actually Amos House probably has one of these grants of all of them, which may be part of the problem. So without further ado, I'm happy to have Bob come down from Boston, right?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I really want to thank the governor and his administration on behalf of HUD Secretary Fudge and our regional administrator, Juana Matias, and how happy I am to be here. I think I just want to echo what we've already heard, which is about partnership. It's about partnership between the state, the federal, local government, and critically important, those nonprofits that are serving our homeless, as well as other social services, and, lest we forget, the private sector. The government, we provide subsidies, we build housing, but we need the private sector, and this program, this initiative, is about that partnership, which is offering incentives to provide funding to landlords to house the folks that need housing most, which are, we're coming back from COVID. It was a long 2 years, and as we know across the country, you can be one step away from homelessness, and something like COVID obviously brought that to the forefront. Many people suffered, and now it's time for a continued holistic approach to addressing that. And I really want to thank the governor and his administration for what they're doing here, and Eileen and Amos House, who've been at this along with, for instance, Rhode Island Housing, Crossroads, and they have, in a good way, we go back. So it's really wonderful to see. And I think that the most, my theme is really hope, that this is a hopeful time. And, it feels better, and with initiatives like this and the things that are being done on the ground, I think we can see real progress. And I can't emphasize enough how difficult a job like Eileen is doing right now it is. And, we're in a really nice facility, but this didn't happen by itself. It took a lot of people and a lot of work. And I'm so happy that this administration is recognizing that, and for this initiative to be able to provide an incentive for those landlords, and to provide that housing is so needed, and to be able to close and have the folks that have been affected by COVID and are in hotel housing and get them to a more permanent arrangement. And I think that this is, as I said, a holistic approach. There is a housing crisis. We recognize it across the country, and folks like your congressional delegation, the congressmen and the senators have been long proponents and supportive of HUD, and I know personally how much I appreciate that, because this progress that we see in getting additional units, providing a safe environment and safe homes and better neighborhoods is critical to the economics of this country. And as I said, I really appreciate the governor and his administration and what they're doing. I did want to also thank the governor for Josh, who is a really smart guy, and also something that is near and dear to my heart, which is about a plan for housing and a plan for ending homelessness. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a long marathon. I'll use, and I know about keeping your mind on something and concentrating, and that's what this is. And so I'm so happy to be here, so happy to really thank the people that are, as I said, doing the work on the ground, and encourage them, and just let them know that our agency, HUD, will be there to provide all the support, hopefully make your life a little bit easier at times, although I think I make it more difficult from a compliance standpoint, fraud, waste, and abuse, making sure all the money is spent well. But really, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so thankful to be hopeful, And it's great work on all of your parts, and I'm just, anything I can do, and I hope you continue it, so thanks so much.
So I'm about to introduce the most important person at this press conference, and that is Virginia, who is a mom who was at our family shelter in Pentucket and worked with our staff and was able to secure one of those units that was paid for through the Landlord Incentive Program. So I'm going to ask Virginia to come up and tell a little bit about herself and her family. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Virginia. This is my son, Jaden. A little bit about myself. I have moved to the state of Rhode Island from New York City about a year ago, where I worked as a nurse for several years. Moving up here, unfortunately, with housing costs and family matters, I wasn't able to establish a home for me and my son. I was pretty much hopping couch to couch, house to house, where it was really overwhelming for me and my son, which fortunately I was able to find Amos House Shelter, where they took me in and they made me feel like family, made me feel like home, was very respectful, you know, even to where I felt to my lowest. I was grateful that they actually found me an apartment, which I can finally come home. I can go home to every day to my son. And I was able to actually, blessed to have a 3-bedroom where all my kids can have their own, you know, room to establish. So I want to say thank you to Lizette for being so helpful with me through the process. All the staff from Amos House has been nothing but a blessing to me. That's something that it will be always remembered and I will never forget, and I'm very grateful. Thank you.